We got to talk about this because it's not being covered very much in the Washington, D.C. area or by national media. Remember the Washington Post slogan that they put at the top of their newspaper, "Democracy dies in darkness"? Well, interestingly, D.C. now has a mask mandate, vaccinated or unvaccinated, indoors. And Tiana Lowe at the Washington Examiner caught Mayor Muriel Bowser of Washington, D.C., officiating a wedding and then dining with hundreds of unmasked people indoors as a part of that wedding. I went and looked on Sunday, Buck Sexton, because I was like, I wonder how much attention the Washington Post is giving to this flagrant violation of D.C.'s new mask policy by a powerful person, the mayor of Washington, D.C., given the fact that they have "Democracy dies in darkness" emblazoned at the top of the Washington Post. It was on Sunday. I can't even find it on their website now. On Sunday, it was the 61st lead story that this had occurred, and it was the 24th COVID story on the Washington Post website. A huge majority of Washington Post readers are never going to know that their mayor doesn't even believe enough in the mask mandate that she's put in place to follow it for even 24 hours after it began.
Just think for a second, Clay, about the reaction. And I know this game, we as conservatives, we have to do this all the time. Conservatives have, but we have to. Imagine you had a Republican mayor who was somehow involved in this kind of hypocrisy, or even a Republican mayor who was at a ceremony like this and they had photos of it and they said, look at what it would be a super spreader event, right? That's what they'd be calling it. Another example of this is the phenomenon of the 500-person birthday party. Now, Clay, you've got a lot of friends, but 500 people, that's a lot of folks, right? I mean,
that's a big party.
Yeah. 500-person birthday party at Barack Obama, former President Obama's $12 million house in Martha's Vineyard, which is actually kind of like a mid-level house in the Vineyard for what it's worth. The Vineyard is a place where you could spend outrageous sums of money, but obviously the guy's in a giant, beautiful mansion. 500 people at his wedding. Now, I have no problem with Obama doing this. I want to be very clear. I think Obama should be able to have a party for thousands of people, but I'm not a Democrat who's lecturing everybody all the time about mask mandates and vaccine mandates and all the rest of it. I'm consistent. If Obama, forget about him for a second, if Ron DeSantis, even in Florida, we're holding a 500-person birthday party right now.
People would lose their minds.
We're the Smashing Pumpkins, by the way, kind of overrated 90s band. I love 90s rock. I don't know where you are on this. They're okay. They're not. I'm not going to say better than Green Day, maybe. But the reality here is if Ron DeSantis was doing this, Clay, it would be considered an act of mass human sacrifice. They'd be comparing everyone who attended Ron DeSantis's party to, Jim Jones Kool-Aid drinking cultists. And right. I'm just sick. I'm sick of the bull crap. Like, we all know that there's no actual standard they use to judge these things.
No doubt. And Obama's party, by the way, is on Martha's Vineyard. So everybody is not only going to his party, they're traveling to it, right? It's not as if he's having a party in New York City or Washington, D.C., where many people who would be attending the party already live. Martha's Vineyard is, I would venture to say, of the 500 people that'll be there, I bet 450 of them are traveling to Martha's Vineyard expressly for the former president's party. I mean, if Trump had a 500-person party at Mar-a-Lago for his birthday, people would lose their mind. It's not even a current sitting elected official. It's former President Trump. People would say, oh, look, Trump continues to say that COVID doesn't matter. Look, he continues to put his life and his fun above everybody else. Oh, look at the lack of science that he's following. Obama does it. And by and large, most people are going to ignore it. Not even worse than that, Buck. The media is going to make excuses for them. They're going to say, well, but it's outdoors. Well, but they're testing people for COVID. Well, but people are vaccinated. Whatever the case may be, the story of why the CDC decided in many ways to reinstitute the mask mandate came from a party July 4th in Massachusetts.
Basically,
in Cape Cod, basically the exact thing that he's doing.
Excellent point. Completely true. A big party led to the panic that has now swept across the whole country.
With all vaccinated people. It's the exact same thing Obama's doing.
But this is exactly what you see playing out time and time again, where COVID has been used by the lockdowners as a weapon against their political opponents and as a tool of control. So when you have anti-lockdown protests in the beginning of the pandemic, it's, oh my gosh, these are super spreader events. BLM starts in June of 2020.
Yes.
It's, oh, this is good for public health. They're going to save lives. And you even saw this recently. You know, we've talked a bit on the show about Cuba. It's dropped out of the headlines. I think, unfortunately, the regime is going to manage to, crush the people under their boot heel once again. But you started to see reports in the last week or so of, those freedom protests in Cuba coinciding with a bit of a spike, just so that the media can show everybody, oh, we like the regime in Cuba a little bit, and so we're willing to criticize the protests as COVID spreader events, right? This is always the tell, and it happens all over the place.